All right. Well, thank you all for being here and being on time and joining us tonight. This is for Module 3, Family Professional Partnership. And each year we're lucky to be joined by a few parents, few families that are willing to come and answer questions and share their experiences with us. And I know, and just for our families that are joining us, we also have many of our trainees are parents or family members, siblings, or self advocates themselves. So we have a lot of lived experience in the room tonight. So hopefully it'll lead to a good conversation. And thank you all who submitted your questions. We have those queued up. However, we will, as we're going through tonight and our parents are sharing their experience and answering your questions, feel free to raise your hand in Zoom and ask questions live as well. We're not just limiting it to the questions that were submitted in advance, because of course questions will come to everybody, comments as we discuss things. Let someone else in here. And that's pretty much how this will spend the next 90 minutes. Our parents will be sharing their experiences, answering questions, and of course, like I said, just feel free to raise your hand and ask your own additional questions as we go. And Kristen is going to help. Is going to moderate tonight, so it's nice for me because I kind of get a little bit of a break. I just got to make sure nothing fails on the technology side. So. Yeah. Any quick comments or questions before we get going? I always like to do that just to make sure that we're addressing everyone here. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, Kristen, I'll hand it over to you to do some introductions, and then we can get going. If anything comes up, let me know. I'm going to stay muted here and out of the way.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So I was really, really excited for this night, and really looking forward to it, particularly as someone who has done the parent panel before, because I think this is such a good opportunity for very authentic and vulnerable conversation. But it's such a learning, I think, that takes place on both sides. So we were supposed to have four parents. I was just checking my phone to see if I had heard from the fourth, but it looks like we have Tanae, Sam, and Jen with us tonight. So we'll go ahead and get started. Um, I haven't heard anything from Will, so I don't know what happened to him. Let me check my emails real quick. Nope, nothing. Okay, so maybe he'll join us. I'm not going to introduce them. I'm going to give them a couple minutes to introduce themselves. So, Sam, you're right next to me. If you want to go ahead and start real quick and just give us a little bit of your story and who you are.
Sure. Is it appropriate to share, or to share some photos, or is it just like a verbal, I'm Sam?
Oh,
I,
go for it.
that would
Yeah.
Okay,
be
let me
fine.
see if I can share my
One
screen.
second. Let me make sure the
Okay.
sharing's um, good to go here. One second. Okay, should be good.
All right. Share screen. Share. Okay. Hi everyone, Sam Ord. Hopefully you can see my screen. Maybe this is a little distracting with the
Nope,
photos, but
we
make it
we we
quick.
can see it. We can see it.
Okay,
Great.
perfect. I have two children. My oldest son is Cameron, he's 15, and my youngest is Tanner, he's 11. Been married to my husband Jim for 16 years. We have two dogs, Maya and Max. I've lived in a town called Beaverton. For those familiar, it's a pretty small town in mid-Michigan for nearly all of my life, and both of my boys attend school here as well as my husband and I both graduated from there. When I'm not working or chasing my kids around, I love to read, travel, watch good movies. Just celebrated this past June my 20th work anniversary at the same company, so pretty proud of that. I have a bachelor's in human resource management, but have spent most of my career in IT. Not sure why or how. I spend a lot of time volunteering as well, so I'm on the Family Leadership Network. I am a recently added school board member to my district's school board. I'm a PAC member for our area PAC. I am president of our local hockey association, and I'm also a next gen leadership mentor for Disability In. These are just some photos of my family. And then this is a little bit about my son, Tanner. He was diagnosed with autism shortly before he turned 18 months old. We started speech, occupational, and physical therapies pretty much right away and added ABA therapy by the time he was 2 and attended those therapies for roughly 6 years in private centers. And then he had a lot of therapies and still receives some at school. He's almost 12 now and in mostly gen ed classes with in-class support and services as needed. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks so much, Sam. And
Yeah.
I love the photos. What a great idea. I'm going to ask, it's Tanae, right? Am I saying that correct? Is your
Yes, it's Tanae.
Tanae?
Um,
Okay. Tanae, if you want to go next.
sure. I am Tanae Rankin. I have four children. I have Tyler, who's 19. He was born at 25 weeks. I have Jaden, which is my stepson, but I've been in his life since he was 3 years old. He has autism as well as he's gay. And he's 17. And then I have London. She is 15. She'll be 16. And then I have Jamil, who is 3 years old. And I'm sure he's something. That's a diagnosis, but I'm just not quite sure which one it is just yet. He's super busy. Been married for 7 years. And been married for 7 years. I am parent support coordinator. I think this week they keep changing my title. So I think, parent support engagement specialist. There you go. So I was a parent support partner, but I also do like PTC and bridges out of poverty, and just I facilitate a lot of parenting groups and things at the Children's Center of Wayne County. Um, what else? So all of my children were in services. Tyler's been in services since he was born because he was born so early. And Jaden has always been in services, since he was born. He has autism. So he's had it since his diagnosis at 3. And London, London is fine. London is an overachiever. So she's doing really well. She's a straight A student at Cass Tech in the 10th grade. Um, and then that Jamil. He's the 3 year old that's biting and doing everything. I don't know what else you need to know, but that's it.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. Next, I'd like to have Jen share a little bit about her.
So today, my grandpa graduated from Cass Tech back in the day. Um, so my name is Jen. I live in the Thumb, and I'm originally from Sterling Heights. I have two kids, Parker and Hunter. Parker is 6. He was diagnosed with ASD. We got the official diagnosis at 2.5, and he's been a full-time 40-hour week ABA kid ever since, up until this year, and along with speech therapy. And we did do it's made an OT back in the beginning. um he is now going to the local school. He's in the special needs classroom he was at ISD for 2 years for preschool, and now he's in kindergarten at the local school. He's in the special needs classroom for like 2 hours or so in the morning, and then he goes to the quote regular um, kindergarten class, and he's been doing really well. Like any kid, he hates homework, but he's doing really, really well, and his speech has come along really well. So that is Parker. He's going to be the main character of our conversation today. And then there's Hunter, who is 4, and he's neurotypical, and typical little 4-year-old crazy kid. So they fight like brothers. And but he's very, very patient and loves his brother and understands, that his brother's special. And we actually were at Beaumont Royal Oak, and it's not Corwell ever. It's Beaumont. Um, I saw a smile there. And we were actually there yesterday. And they both boys had to get tested for a blood clotting disorder, which I have. And it was so sweet when they were taking blood, like Parker was flipping out. And then his little brother is there, he's kissing him, he's telling him it's going to be okay. And they were just so sweet. So, and then been married for about 7 years to my husband, and we live on a couple acres out in rural America. It's a big change from city life. I used to be, it was nothing to go down to Detroit and get dinner. And now it takes like an hour and a half to get there. So definitely a change in atmosphere. So that's my little blurb. Oh, and I'm a photographer. Sorry, I forgot. I'm a photographer. He worked for Ford. I'd shoot weddings, families, all that other good stuff. I did have to quit my job of 14 years at Ford to make sure that Parker got all of his therapies and stuff that he needed to get to and fro. And it was obviously a no-brainer. Um, but I do volunteer with Flashes of Hope, which is for photographers to volunteer to take photos and family photos of kids with cancer. I'm usually over at Mott in Ann Arbor. Been doing that since before I had kids. I just like to give back. And I'm a member of the of FLN, of the Family Leadership Network. And I also am active with the St. Louis County Great Start Collaborative. So I think I'm done.
Thanks so much, Jen. All right, we're going to jump right into the questions, and um, I will go ahead to begin. I'll maybe call on people to go through, and then, but if there's something you don't feel you have to add, you're welcome to say pass, or if you don't want to share something. So the first question is, what has been what was or has been the hardest part of having a child with a developmental and or intellectual disability, and how have you been able to overcome that or resolve it if possible? I'm going to call on Tanae.
I would say scheduling. With having multiple children that have disabilities, so with Jaden and Tyler, um, with having children with disabilities and them having to go to occupational therapy, speech therapy, just regular therapy for their own mental, plus having other children that want to do extracurricular activities and want to be involved in like Girl Scouts and just regular things that a normal child will want to do, is very hard managing the schedules and the time and a one-on-one time and time for yourself, self-care, and cleaning up, just regular normal things that you have to do on a daily basis along with their schedules and routines. It is very hard to get things done and to get to appointments on time if you have a hiccup or they have a outburst or a tantrum because they're triggered, and just regular life, like regularly trying to get out of the door and go to work, is a very hard thing to do on a daily basis, but I've overcome it by getting them used to routines and schedules. That's what has helped me the most, is just trying to keep appointments only and just
Um,
having like a set time to do certain things. That's the only thing that's helped me, but it is the hardest thing for me to get over, is just daily life things, as well as just trying to cope with daily life with dealing with the child with a disability, making sure that you're attentive to them and their needs and learning them, and trying to get them used to schedules and routines. That's for me.
Thank you. Yeah, I imagine with 4 in the house, there's a lot going on. Sam, you want to tackle that one?
Sure. I would say for me, the hardest part, I think, when we received my son's diagnosis was letting go of what I thought his future would look like. I really feel like I kind of had to almost mourn that life, which maybe sounds silly, but that's truly how it felt for me. It really did flip our world upside down for a bit just because I wasn't touched in any way, shape, or form by any family members or loved ones with children of special needs. So it was just very new for us, and I just didn't know what to expect and where to go next. I would say I let myself have that time to really let go of what I felt like his life should look like, and allowed myself to feel sad and all the things for a bit, and then just really focused on letting go of that, and trying to look towards a different future and embrace that a little bit and allow his path to be what his path is supposed to be. So just kind of letting go of some of those expectations, I think, was really important for us.
Thank you. Jen?
Um, so yes, I definitely get what you're saying about mourning, what your hopes and dreams were for them because, while we still have hopes and dreams for our kids, it looks a little different. And I definitely felt that too. For me personally, I have kind of like a little bit of a different situation, not too crazy, but like I said, I did move from the city to, up in the thumb, and I left my friends and family down there. So I basically I got a divorce, started talking to my husband, and we got pregnant in the first month. Surprise, you're 39 and about to have a kid. So I moved up, where he lived in Yale, and I was like, where's Yale? So it was a little different. So I had that isolation as well, especially like during the winter and stuff during the cold seasons. Also during Parker's pregnancy, I got into three deer accidents. I'd never been in one before in my life. So, I had a little bit of PTSD from that. And it was just very isolating. Well, then when Parker got diagnosed, I we tried to make it work with me working. I had been at Ford for 14 years, and I ran their photo and video department out in Romeo. And so that was something that I had to give up to take care and make sure Parker had everything he needed. And um, I think maybe, I don't know if age has anything to do with it, but I mean, the fact that I had him at 39. And so by then I was like, 41. Um, this had just been my life. I was used to being self-sufficient, and I had a career and, and everything. And I had to give that up, which I wasn't upset about it for Parker, but I had to mourn that. And I mean, it really becomes part of your identity. And so I did go into a depression with that. And then, that combined with my child was just diagnosed with ASD. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Um, and my husband, it wasn't even like an option for him to be Mr. Mom. I mean, it was always going to be me. Um, and I mean, he's a fantastic father, but I mean, it just, I can multitask like a champ, and that's what we needs moms have to do, or parents, I should say. But yeah, so I mean, so it was really, really tough. I went into a bad depression for a couple of years. And it was going down to one income. We had to get on WIC, and just things. I went to my first food drive. It was major life changes all at once that were kind of making my head explode. um but I persisted, and I came out the other side, and I'm back to being me. um but that was really, really hard. So I mean, it would not only was it but it was my loss
That
of, kind of like part of my identity. And then, dealing with feelings of, I know I'm being a mom, but I'm not bringing in any income. And, so it was just a whole smorgasbord of, uh, so I think that was really tough for me.
Yeah, that's a lot of changes at
Hmm.
once. All right, next question. What barriers do you encounter in accessing services and how do you overcome them?
Do you want me to go?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
You were
I
pausing, so
was
I was
just
like, maybe she
deciding,
wants me to
like,
go.
who goes next? Go ahead, Jen.
Okay. Well, kind of like to go along with my story. We did not qualify for anything. We were getting the family subsidy, the 336 cents um a month. But like for anything like Social Security, I tried to get Medicaid as a secondary because, bless his heart, he is like the worst brusher in the world. And, jaws are strong things and you can't really force your kids to brush like all the places. Thankfully he's gotten better now, but at the time he needed the stainless steel caps and he needed a tooth pulled and spacer put in and all this stuff. And we were looking at around $5,000. And so I had applied for Medicaid as a secondary. We had insurance, but I mean, just to help with this, and everything got denied because we had assets. Again, like I said, I was, in my 40s, but so was my husband. So I mean, we had time to accumulate assets, and you know, just because I mean, we would have essentially had to like sell all of our things, dump our 401ks, be in a much worse financial situation to get that any help. And that was really frustrating because just because we have some assets, I mean, it's like we are being punished for being responsible. And, I mean, our kids are going to need long-term care, but you want us to basically get rid of everything so that you'll give us help. And, I don't think that's fair. Like I just, and then on the other flip side of that, which it really doesn't have anything to do with this, but I see other people lying about stuff like that and getting that Medicaid and getting this, this help. And, just because we're being truthful, we weren't able to get that help either. So that was that was a barrier to doing something. I mean, we were able to, honestly, my parents helped out. Without my parents, we wouldn't be where we are now because they've helped us out financially. It makes it really, really hard for families. So
Thank you. Tanae?
For me as well, finding resources, or even getting the school districts to follow the IEPs, getting the schools to follow the IEPs is really a struggle. And I advocate very well for them. And even though I'm advocating, it's a lot of pushback when your child doesn't have behavior problems. We're not having behavior problems. We're having problems with them not being educated. You can't just put them in a classroom and just expect them to learn something. They have to actually be taught. And even with me incorporating like progress reports and things like that into the IEP so that I can be monitoring to see if he's meeting those goals, um, the school isn't following up. They don't have the teachers that enough teachers that are educated. They just it's really the IEP meetings. Like when you're going into those IEP meetings, they're saying anything. It's a lot of copy and pasting. They're not really supporting the child. It's like, oh, well, they have ASD, and oh, each child is different, and so they just throw those IEPs together and then no one is following them. You'll talk to one teacher about your child and they don't even know that they have an IEP, and or understand what it is and what it means to accommodate them efficiently. Like, no, they still need to learn how to add, how to subtract, how to count. And it's just a lot going on with those IEPs. They're not following them. And I think that's a huge struggle that I am struggling, and just making sure that
yeah.
they're getting what they need and what support they need at school. Getting the speech therapy, getting enough time in because they have to be in school. But they need more of like I would think that my child would have needed when he was younger, he would have needed more ABA, like needed to be in ABA instead of being in the classroom. He would have benefited from, instead of going to school, if he just would have went to ABA all day. But that's not what the state allows. Like they have to be in school for a certain amount of hours in order to um whatever the law is, they have to be in school. But it was really beneficial for him to go to ABA all day instead, but that's not what the school district allowed. So for me, just them being in school and getting um the correct support that the IEP is supposed to do. Like if I could have an IEP that worked and the school worked with them and teachers were trained to work with the children and the resources that they need, that would be great.
Thanks, Sam.
Um, for me, I think when I think of all the barriers we've come across, our first one was definitely getting diagnosis. 10 years ago, there was like a 2-year wait list to have diagnosis for autism. And it was not at that critical of an age where early intervention is key. You don't have 2 years. So that was a huge barrier. I think and hope that that's better now, but I know that was very tough for us at the start. And then I think for me now, I would say barriers for us similar to the other feedback we've gotten is in school for sure, not just around following IEPs, but also just inclusion. My family lives in a really small rural area, so we don't have a lot of services nearby. We don't have a lot of families that look like my family. We certainly have some kids with needs, but not to, there's not that many. We live in a small area. So having my son have kids like him, there's a few kids in his class that are like him, but not many. So for him, I feel like that's a barrier. We don't have a lot of others that we can kind of relate to. And even just things like getting him invited to track and field day with the other kids, like that is still a barrier that I think is not always considered. Inclusion, I will advocate for that for my whole life. So I think that's definitely one of the barriers. And I guess how I overcome that is just by advocating fiercely and forever. So that's kind of where we're at on that one.
Jen, did you have
I,
something you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Samantha like touched on it too, like living in rural areas. Just the lack of services. I came from Macomb and we considered like moving in with my parents, which would have been miserable. I mean, I love my parents, but you don't want to like have your whole family living with your parents. And because MISD is so funded and in everything, Macomb Intermediate. And thankfully I mean, I used to drive over a half an hour each way to get Parker to ABA. And it wasn't at the time I didn't know, but it wasn't even a very good ABA place. Thankfully where we ended up, a place opened a bit closer, but out here, man, it's few and far between. And back to even like keeping a job or anything. I mean, even still, he's in school. I had to go pick him up early to take him to speech because, no offense, the schools just don't have, I mean, 30 minutes of speech twice a month is not going to help my kid at all. He needs more. And so it's like, we parents have to advocate and have to do the extra. And sometimes that means that, we don't have jobs or we don't, sometimes, I mean, you don't want it to, but I mean, sometimes the other kids, have to miss things and whatnot. I mean, but anyway, yeah. So the rural area that I just wanted to bring that up, but then of course Sam did. So.
There we go. I couldn't unmute. Sam added that her drive was 40 minutes one way, so definitely changes things. All right. What is one word that a professional has used in the past that affected how you viewed them? Did the relationship change, good or bad? I'm going to start with you, Sam, this time.
Okay. For this one, I don't have one word, but I will never ever forget this. When we were working on diagnosis for my son at one of the centers that we went to, they did the whole, 4 hour thing and went through the process. And we were then informed that there was no way that my son had autism because he clearly loved me, his mom, and that he appeared to be an empathetic human. And I will never forget that because I didn't know a lot about autism. I'm not an expert still, and I certainly wasn't then. But I knew that a child with a diagnosis, regardless of what it was, could certainly love their parents still and be empathetic. I will, like I said, never ever forget that. I was very disappointed to hear that. And I still hear some things like that now, and it's just such a misconception that I was really hesitant even to talk to anyone about my child's diagnosis after that, especially providers, to be honest with you. It was just really hard to hear that. So that stuck with me for a long, long time. Obviously, still is stuck with me, but
Yeah. Today, any one word
Um,
things that stuck with you, good or bad?
Not one word, you know, but I heard once that because my child had autism, that was a get out of jail free card.
for that too.
Okay, Jen?
yeah, totally like side note when people like give me looks, Parker doesn't like act out a lot anymore, but at the time, early on in the diagnosis when he would like act out when we were at the store or something like that, if somebody would give me a dirty look or say something, yeah, I did snap back a little bit. I'd look at him and I'd be like, autism, it's a bitch. And they would just be like, "Mm," but it usually shut him up. But thankfully, I haven't had any. We've been so lucky. Um, my kids go to Peck Elementary in Peck, Michigan. We actually do school of choice because um it's 15 minutes either way to our assigned school district or Peck, and they are so well known for doing great with special needs kids. And I've been very fortunate. I've heard all the horror stories about IEP meetings and everything else, and we have been so lucky. The middle school principal has a son with ASD, and she's married to the superintendent. So I mean, it is very, it's very they're smaller class size. They have plenty of parapros. It's grown. I mean, and they get more and more school choice kids that are special needs because they're doing such a fantastic job. We're looking at like getting a different house, and we're like, yeah, but it has to be within 20 minutes of the school because that's a hard stop there because we have been so lucky. And thankfully, same thing with professionals. I will advocate for my kid hard, but we've been around really, really good people, and it was never a question. I mean, in the beginning, we saw Dr. Solomon. If you get familiar with ASD, you know who he is. And then we had HAP at the time, and Henry Ford's like, "Oh yeah, just call, and we'll get you right in." And there was no wait, and everybody was like, "Yep, level 3, blah blah blah." Which actually, I think that was probably a misdiagnosis. I think he's level 2, but we've had a lot of support, so we're really, really, really fortunate in that respect.
Thank you. Let's see. How do you, I think all the kids have siblings, so how do you support siblings or other family members in understanding and adapting to the unique needs of your child? Let's start with Jen.
Um, Again, you hear stories about family members or other people that are like, "Oh, your kid's not autistic. They just this or that." My family is mostly medical people. So I've had a lot of support there. Nobody's ever questioned it, told me that, autism isn't real. told me it's caused by this or that or the other, Tylenol, vaccines, whatever. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Parker is what he is, and that's all that matters. Friends and family. And then as far as Hunter goes, he's four. So I mean, some of these big concepts are hard for him to understand. But we talk about it and he knows that Parker's different. He's seen things and we openly talk about it. He knows that there's nothing related to that is off top or not off topic, but not to be talked about. Um, so I think just he's grown to be a very empathetic little monster and I mean he still is a monster, but I think he's kind to people that are different. And I'm just we'll just continue to talk about it and kind of expound on the depth of what we talk about as he gets older.
Thank you. Sam, what about your family?
Similar, I would say, it's interesting. My oldest son was 4, well, 6 when my youngest son was diagnosed. And he was very understanding, and he was an amazing brother when first had diagnosis and helped tremendously, like just fantastic. He's almost 16 now though, and it's different, I will say. I don't know if this is normal. This is certainly our situation though. The older he gets right now, especially, I find that he has less I guess compassion for his brother. Now, I don't know if that's like maybe a good thing because they do fight like siblings do, right? I always prayed for that day, like please let them just be normal brothers, and didn't know if that would happen. And they certainly do. I mean, they argue just like normal brothers do, but I would say he definitely is like in the teen years of a lot less understanding and empathy for his brother. I don't know. I will be honest, I have had to give him more grace and understanding and reminders than I expected to have to. And I think maybe that's maybe just a good reminder. I have to remind myself of that sometimes too. Like, just because he's grown up with a brother that has autism doesn't mean that he understands every bit of it. We certainly talk a lot about it and give a lot of reminders, but I do have to remind myself to give him grace sometimes too, because his life is different because of his brother. Good, wrong, indifferent, whatever. So I think that's been difficult for me a little bit these last few years. I think kids just naturally get a little bit more, I guess, less understanding. You can definitely see that shift happen with people, right? Like kids are just innocent, and so they understand, and I think don't even question a lot when they're younger. And then as humans do, they start to not be so understanding of things. And so it's constant discussion in our home of like, this is not how you're being raised. You have a brother that has needs, and there's others in our community and whatever else. So I think for me, it's just like constant reminders and grace, and for myself as well, because I'm like, what am I doing wrong as a parent? But some of it's just like human instinct, right? And I think that's just a good, I guess, reminder for me. So
Thanks, Sam. Tanae, what would you say about siblings? How you support siblings or other family?
Okay. So with Jaden, Jaden is 17, but he is also gay. And getting Tyler, which is the 19-year-old, but he has Tyler has like ADHD, and he has some other things going on with him, depression, and um Tyler is going through some stuff because he's small. He's probably about 5'4" and maybe 115 pounds. And Jaden, who has the ASD, is probably about 5'8", 5'9", and very flamboyant, if that's a word, like is it appropriate to say. He's very um feminine. And he doesn't understand. Jaden doesn't understand. I don't think that he all the way understand what gay is. He does, but he's mimicking a lot. And then I have London, who was 15. That is the It's hard balancing these teenagers in their Jaden with his sexuality and keeping him away from Tyler, who doesn't want Jaden in his background, or while he's playing the game, because Jaden's over here singing and doing TikTok dances. And then we have London, who is a teenager girl, but she can't hang out with Jaden because Jaden is embarrassing her with how he is behaving outside. So, like he's doing things that is embarrassing to her, and so it is hard for me to keep everybody balanced and keep everybody to understand that yes, Jaden has a disability, but Tyler got one too. And then London is just like, hey, I'm sick of both of them too. Can you keep them both away from me? So all of that. And then we have the 3-year-old. So trying to teach the 3-year-old, Jaden wants to wear a purse, and is that appropriate, to talk to the 3-year-old about? And shh, go out, go back. You need a bath? Okay. So just trying to keep everybody, well, like I said, on schedule and routine so that I can keep them away. I know you want to read a story. Can you go downstairs and talk to daddy? Go talk to daddy for 5 minutes. Go talk to daddy. Um, just keeping everybody separated, and but trying to incorporate family things is hard for me, because they don't want to be around each other. Like they don't want to do things as a family because London feels like she's going to be in Paris. Tyler wants to stay in his room and be depressed and play the game all day. And then Jaden wants to be seen. He wants to be outside. He wants to be in a show, he wants to perform. And it is hard. But I'm this daily life, so I'm just trying to get through it.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to start with Sam. What changes would you most like to see in schools or community programs to better support children with disabilities and their families?
I think for that one, more training for general ed teachers is probably what I think would be most beneficial. There's definitely a desire and a push to have all students, regardless of abilities, in gen ed classrooms, but a lot of times, and maybe this is just my situation because of the rural area, but we don't have a lot of training for our gen ed teachers. And so I find that there is often a struggle because of that and a lack of understanding, not to the teacher's fault. Um, or you have 30 children in a classroom, they can't possibly give the attention that a student with needs requires. So I think definitely more training, more resources, and more support in our schools would be significant. um, and I think that there is just a lack of people wanting to go into that profession regardless. So I think just finding a way to encourage people to continue to want to go into teaching and para roles and all the things. We certainly need more of that.
Today I see you nodding your head. You have, and you're in a more urban area, correct? So what is your take on that? What changes would you like
Um,
to see?
the same. I already spoke about the IEPs and just how I think that that's a huge problem. But we don't even have like ASD schools, like a place. I know in Detroit they just closed like 27 classrooms, ASD classrooms, and just closed, like, I think they said another 20 or something, resource rooms and things. They closed all of the rooms, and a lot of them are closed, and they don't have anywhere for the children with ASD to go. I think we need more autism school, like the whole school needs to be like a school for children with autism. If we had that option, so that they can be adequately taught, and the resources, and just the is lack of resources, lack of information on the different, they say, like, my child is on a different spectrum, so just more information on the different spectrums for parents to understand, even if they taught some of the things that's in ABA to parents, like taught them how to do it at home, or what are the tools and tricks that works in ABA that's not working at home. Like, how can I teach my own child at home, the things from ABA, or just lack of resources, period, all around.
Thank you. Sam, you wanted to add a comment. I saw you put something in the chat.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, and I don't know how I forgot this, but peer programs in some capacity, I think are so beneficial. Just as an example, there is a peer program that my son participated in elementary school, which was amazing. He was basically buddied up with a high school student, and they became friends and got to do fun activities together, and they would just talk. It was like making sure that he had a friend. And interestingly enough, in the junior senior high, there is not a peer program anymore. And again, just speaking from my own experience, I find that very interesting because even for, my older son, like I feel like junior, senior high is where you need friends more than ever. Some of those behaviors are no longer cute and funny or whatever. It's harder to find people that will accept you the older you get. And so I just think a peer program in some way, shape, or form is so huge. I would love to see all districts have something like that.
Thank you. Jen, is there anything what changes would you most like to see in schools or community programs to better support children with disabilities and their families?
Well, since Sam took my answer, um, no, that's exactly what I was going to say though. Through working with FLN and stuff, I got the opportunity to review some of the anti-bullying peer-to-peer applications for grants. And I was a part of that, and that was really, really cool. It was awesome to learn about what some of these schools are doing. And I know I've told people locally at the school levels, at the different school levels, about it, and I've passed it on to principals and to other people. I think it's super important, and um, I think that what they're doing is fantastic. The other thing, like Parker participated in Victory Day, which was at Port Huron High School, where you go and they team you up with a football player, and everybody got to run and do a touchdown and everything. It was very inclusive. It was awesome. We don't even live there. I mean, we're close, but I mean, we're not in Port Huron District. It was really, really cool, and I plan on doing that every year. Just to see the inclusion, and giving the neurotypical kids, the football players and the cheerleaders, a chance to get to know our kids and vice versa. And for some of us, we're never going to see our kids play football or cheerlead or anything like that. And it was really cool. And so I think that more inclusion, peer-to-peer activities is super, super important. And I think that would probably be like my number one thing that I'd like to see more of.
Good. This is a long question, so if I have to read it twice, let me know, but I did share with you guys. So many professional approaches focus on deficits. Instead, what are the most valuable and non-traditional family strengths or resources that you feel professionals often overlook, but which has been essential in supporting your child's development? So what are some things, some strengths or non-traditional things in your family that professionals overlook but has been essential to support your family? And how can a clinician or service provider be intentional about learning and genuinely building upon these specific family strengths? Let's start with Sam.
A tough one for me. I think that I would say sibling relationships are probably maybe where professionals could focus, understanding a little bit more about what those good relationships look like. And, I just think about my boys, and there was a lot of like learning from each other. And we don't often talk about those good things. So even, in the schools, in appointments and therapies, we never really involved my older son, but we probably could have. At some of the therapies, just for an example, like I would attend ABA, for instance, and do a little bit of like what maybe you heard of, play therapy, where I would learn how to work with him. But we never did that with my son, my older son. And I just think that that maybe was a miss that I hadn't even considered, honestly, until reading this question. I just think that there is definitely a benefit of having the children, you just mimic your peers, right? And so I just think there's a miss there, maybe that we're not thinking enough about. Um, and also, I just think in general, talking about some of the good things, it's just not done enough, like in anything, IEP meetings, appointments, therapies. We just don't talk about that enough. So we're not learning about what is successful, we're learning about what isn't. So I just think talking about those things in general would be significant in just finding ways to be, to do different things, different approach, that sort of thing.
Tanae, do you have anything to add to that?
Um, I guess just building rapport with families is important, because then you can know what's going on with the family a little bit more. Like, I know you don't get to meet with the parents as much as you're supposed to meet with the child, but just getting to know the family a little bit more, and understanding their needs, uh, I think that's what's important, because every family is different.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen, anything you'd add to that?
I don't know if this is like really exactly answering the question, but um, I think the value of being an advocate for your child. Um, I mean, I have all the rights law books. I mean, thankfully, I haven't had to, go head to head like Tanae has with, with IEP meetings and stuff like that. But I mean, Parker came home from ABA one time, and he had bruises in the shape of an adult hand. So, you address it. I took pictures, because I'm a photographer too, and I addressed, I sent it to the clinic director, and I was like, hey, not saying anybody did this on purpose, but this needs to be looked into. This isn't okay. Let's, and, just as far as like teachers, now that we're getting into like elementary school, um, like talking about some of these educators that don't have the special needs background, um, lean on us. Like, we'll be our biggest, our kids' biggest advocates. Let's work together on this. Don't try and do it yourself. Talk to us. Let's come up with a solution if there's a problem. So I think it's very important to, to be your kid's advocate, and and for the educators and others, in their life, to realize that, and just to try and work together on it.
Thank you. Actually, that transitions, and I'm going to let you take this one, Jen, if that's all right. What do you wish people understood about parents of children with disabilities?
I think for me, living, like I said, I moved to a different area and I wasn't around friends, which my friends have been great. You find out who your real friends are, especially with a big move like that. And then, you take a special needs kid. Um, you definitely weed out some people that, maybe weren't necessarily the truest of friends. But I wish not only in my case, but everybody, we're special needs parents. We still want to be invited to things. We may not be able to make it. Sometimes the thought of going places, or like if a house or something is right on the road and it's going to be chaotic and stuff, like I may decide not to go because Parker may run out into the street because of course he has no fear of anything like cars or anything like that. He's gotten better, but I mean this has been, like we went to a birthday party and he is throwing handfuls of mud into the pool. I mean, just things. Obviously, you want to be invited back. I mean, I was PO'd. I'm not gonna lie, but because he knows better. But just please still invite us. Please, we may not be able to find a sitter because, of course, just a regular 16-year-old may not be equipped to handle our, special needs child. And obviously, like I said, I know mine's younger, but yeah, we still want to be invited or included, and we'll try our very best to make it if we can't or if we don't be offended. It doesn't mean that we don't want to be a part of it, you know. So I mean, I think that's it for me.
Sam, what would you add to that?
Definitely agree on just wanting to feel included, accepted, supported. Those are definitely things that I wish more understood and tried more to do. And I think that for me personally, I would say I wish people understood that my fierceness and my advocacy isn't to be like whoa, like you're too much of a human. It's just simply because that's how much we have to fight sometimes to make sure that the world is a place our kids can belong. And not a lot of people understand that, to be honest. It feels that way as a special needs parent, at least for me. I feel like I have to defend my actions a lot in the things I say and do. And I hate, honestly, that I have to do that. I just want a world where my child can feel loved and accepted. And I hate that I have to fight for that. And I wish more understood that.
Yeah, that mama bear, huh?
That's right.
We have that reputation.
Yes, we do.
Danae, anything you'd add to that? What you wished other people understood about parents of children with disabilities?
I think that it wasn't Sam. I think it was Jen was talking about the looks and the stares. So I think that's what I think that a person with a developmentally delayed child, or a child with a disability, doesn't always have a look to them. They could look normal but have special needs, and so I need people to not be so judgmental. I wish that people wasn't so judgmental of the behaviors that children often display. It's not always on purpose, or they're not always being bad. They have a disability, and I wish that people could just know that everybody is not the same. Just because they don't have a sticker on their forehead to say I have autism, you know just stop judging people, I guess.
Absolutely. Um, this question would probably apply more to Sam and Tanae, but what are some of the changes in provider attitudes, positive or negative, that you have seen as your child has gone from childhood to adolescence? Sam?
Yeah, I don't know that I've noticed a considerable difference from providers necessarily, but just in general, probably just from humans. I think that as a child with a disability or a developmental delay, it is sometimes like, oh, that's so cute, or their nuances are like, oh, look how silly. Um, but as they grow up, those things may not look and feel the same. And I think that there's a lot of judgment, even if not by choice. Like I just think that happens. My son is obsessed with stuffed animals. Well, it was super adorable when he was 2, and he'd have to take like 10 stuffed animals with him to every appointment and therapy, and he'd have to have one in each hand and all the things. Well, now it's not as acceptable for him at almost 12 years old, even though for me, I will never tell him no to those things. But he often wants to have one at school just because of his anxiety. And he feels a lot safer and better when he has him, and it's not acceptable for him. And that it's a fine balance, I think, because on one hand I have to teach him that like the world isn't always accepting of that stuff, regardless of how much I wish it was. And I don't want him to be made fun of more because of those things, but I also wish that adults were more accepting of that, as a I don't teacher, provider, whatever. And I also think there's just some expectation that as someone grows up that they tend to learn to know better. And that's just not always the case. And I just think that it's easier to accept and approve of those things when a child doesn't know better, but sometimes they just simply don't, regardless of the age. So I definitely think that's tough.
Yeah, I will add, I've shared with the group previously about my daughter that's 27. Finding caregivers for a 27-year-old in diapers is so much harder than finding care when she was 7, even 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. She's a full grown woman. So
Mhm.
it's really, a
Yeah, I mean,
challenge.
I think about even like pediatric dentistry, like that's been a really hard one for me. My son has severe anxiety, the dentist like sensory issues, and the dentist is like his one place that he would rather do anything other than go to the dentist. And pediatric dentistry stops at like what, 10, I think is the oldest you can be to require a pediatric dentist. And in Michigan, it's even harder to find them in general. And then you add on a diagnosis and also then in older age. Like those things don't exist for kids, and not just kids, people, right? They don't exist for people, and it's really hard. What are you supposed to do? So those things, that's tough.
Yeah, our pediatric dentist kept her till she was 21, but she's
Okay.
dire need of seeing a dentist, and I have called
Mhm.
so many places looking for someone that
Yes.
can sedate her and
Yep.
do
Same.
dental work.
Yep. Same. And we've
Yeah.
like struck out. Yeah. So that's been really hard.
Tanae, do you have anything you would add as far as a change of your child going from childhood to adolescence?
No, I don't have anything to add. I don't really have anything. No. Mm-mm.
Okay, that's fine. Yep. And Jen, her kiddo isn't quite that old yet, so. All right, what is the best advice that you've received from a parent or family support group, and where did you learn about this resource? Jen, what's the best advice you've gotten, maybe from another parent?
Honestly, I don't have an answer for that. Nothing really sticks in my mind. And I didn't, again, rural America, didn't really attend any support groups. And even like the ABA places, I mean, because of HIPAA, they keep everybody pretty separated. The Parkers, we quit ABA when he started school this year, but the ABA place that he was going actually just got a newsletter yesterday saying that they're going to start a support group, which is fantastic. But I wasn't a part of that, and yeah, the my one ASD mom friend. Um, is it's only because I saw her in the waiting room at the old place that was not nearly as good, and she moved close to me. And so now we're friends and we get the kids together, even though her kids are older. So I haven't really gotten any like good piece of advice or anything like that from anyone that's sticking out.
Okay. Tanae, any words of wisdom that have stuck with you?
Just that every child is different and you have to learn your own child and their own triggers and their own you have to learn your own child. Every child is different because I used to be like, okay, well, what's wrong with your child? And uh what are they experiencing? And it would be totally different from what was going on in my home. So no matter what, even if it was with a family member or every child is different. And so I didn't really think of it that way at first. I was more so thinking that they were all kind of a little bit the same or had the same kind of things going on, but every child is different. And that's what I would say.
Sam?
I think for me, the one thing that sticks out is I've shared a few times now. I When we got my son's diagnosis, I did not have a single person in my life that I knew had a special needs child of any sort. And so I like was seeking out somebody that would understand what I was feeling. And so like from a friend of a friend of a friend, I somebody reached out to me and basically just said that it is okay to mourn the life that you thought that they would have, and it's okay to feel sad, and you can stay in that sadness for a minute, but then you have to stand back up and be ready to advocate. And that's exactly what I did. Like I'm not gonna lie, I still have moments where it's like, gosh, I feel so sad about this, and I can let myself feel that for a minute, and then I try not to stay in that sadness. But I think that was the biggest piece of advice for me. Like it was okay, giving me permission almost to feel that way, because I felt like a terrible person. Like, here I am, like my child isn't dead. They didn't receive a cancer diagnosis. Like it wasn't anything life threatening. It just was not the life I thought that they would live. And I felt terrible because I felt so distraught over it. And it just made me feel like I had permission to feel that way. So I always share that same advice with parents when they reach out to me. It's like, you can feel sad. It's okay to feel that way. Just don't stay in that sadness. And I think that was yeah, it's definitely stuck with me.
Thanks. All right. How has your understanding of your child's disability changed over time? Tanae?
Well, Jaden really didn't talk much when he was little. Um, he didn't really talk much, and he didn't really understand what we were saying. We were having a lot of communication barriers. Um, and so it's changed a lot because he has been talking a lot more. He's a teenager. He is verbal and he's expressing himself now a lot more than what he would before. And even though he doesn't really understand a lot of the language that he's using, he doesn't understand the words all the way. But he still is trying to communicate a whole lot more, and we are trying to incorporate. He wants his independence, so he's speaking up about that. So we have been teaching him how to cook for himself. He's 17, so we've been teaching him how to cook. He want to know how to drive. He wants to go to the store by himself, like, and so we are trying to let go of his hand and trying to let him do these things that he wants to do, like cook. So we've been working on cheeseburgers. That's his favorite thing he want to eat. He want to make cheeseburgers and he wants to use the deep fryer. And we're like, oh God, but let him do it. He's 17. He got to learn how to make a cheeseburger. So he's doing really good with that. But just incorporating, letting him have that independence. He wants to walk around the corner and go to the store by himself. So just letting him have his independence is really hard for my husband because he is so worried about him being, gay and having autism and not understanding the dangers of that. And just because Jaden he does not understand the dangers that he is facing when he walks out, even approaching men. It's not safe. And him doing the things that he's doing is not always safe in the community that we live in. It's not safe for him to do these things, but he wants to go and do it. He wants to go walk to the park and go by himself. He don't want us to go with him, or I'm like, I'll just sit in the car. He's like, no, I don't want you to sit in the car. Why can't I just go? And it's like, you know, so I don't know what to do with it, but we're rolling, we're trying, I'm working on it.
Yeah. Jen, how has your understanding of your child's disability changed over time?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, I was like, okay, let's read up everything that I can on it. And, obviously the spectrum is so broad that, you can go on all the Facebook groups and all the this, that, and the other, and it's still not going to be the same as your kid. Um, so, I would say initially I was just reading all the things and it was overwhelming. And over time, it was like, okay, I need to stop this. I'm just going to focus on my kiddo and what we're doing. And now, I mean, when we were potty training, I mean, sure, I looked down there, to see if there was any potty training, tip. Um, we eventually got there because thank God, because Pampers does not make any larger of a size, and he vehemently hated the other underwear, the bigger size underwear. So, or the diapers, I should say. But yeah, I mean, before it was like just research, 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 and now it's just I'm kind of like go with it. If something pops up, then we'll deal with it. Otherwise, it is what it is. Things like sleeping. I mean, the sleep studies and um, you know, all the things that we've gone through. I mean, you just I just learned that you just got to take it one bit at a time. Otherwise, it gets to be just really overwhelming. And so.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sam, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, for us, like change is the only constant. I think it's taught me that for sure. Just when I think I have it all figured out, a new symptom or a new hyperfixation or a new, I cannot absolutely not do that. That's the most terrible thing on earth comes up. So I think just teaching me to like what the other said, go with the flow. I've had to do that a lot, regardless of age. It definitely has taught me that like change is the only constant. That is for certain with us. So
Yeah. How can self-advocates work in partnership with parents with advocacy work? Anybody want to volunteer for that one?
Oh, I do that every day. Look. So um I advocate for parents by teaching them the IEP process. I support them with any school meetings that they have or any DHS meetings. I support them with filling out the SSI applications. I support them with um, finding resources in the community, how to look them up. Um, So with me being an advocate myself, I guess that I should have answered that question, but that is what I do. I support other parents that have children with disabilities. Also joining like different parent advisory councils. That's another way you can help other parents is by speaking up and using your voice, being on a panel like this today, speaking up and using your voice for other parents. But that's what I do.
Jen or Sam, either one of you want to add anything? No? Can you share a positive moment with a healthcare provider? What did they do well? Anybody got a good story on that one?
So I had an infant mental health therapist, and we had her for 7 years. Um, and that was because we had such a great bond and a great rapport. I did not want to let her go. Okay, she had became a part of the family with being there for the 2 hours a week on the different days. She had grew with our family. We watched her have two babies, and we did not want to let her go just because of our rapport and the trust that we had with her. We knew that when it was times that I could talk to her, and she just really helped our family get through a lot of difficult situations that we didn't know how to conquer or how to even address within our family. She was very supportive, and sometimes she told us she had to take her therapist hat off. Like, I'm gonna have to take my hat off for a second. This might be an unprofessional answer, but it was respect. It was respectful. She didn't have the same religion as us, but she definitely supported our family when we were going through things, and she wasn't biased, and she really took time to learn us and support us without I would say without judging, and that's what she did, and we kept her for a long time.
Yeah, it's hard to let the good ones go, isn't it? Sam or Jen, either of you want? Sam, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, similar. We've had so many therapists, especially in those early years where he spent more time with them than he did with us. His first ABA therapist was, I mean, we still are in contact all these years later, but many positive experiences with the therapist, whether it was speech, OT, PT, ABA. They all were phenomenal. And I cried every single time we said goodbye to one of them. It was very difficult for me, and my son, honestly, but we just had, I mean, so many positive experiences. There was just a lot of love you could tell that they put into their profession.
Yeah, and same with us. We've had some really, really great people. Parker's BCBA at ABA was fantastic for a while there. Parker wouldn't let us eat dinner at the kitchen table with the light on. We had to have a side table lamp that we moved to the kitchen table. Why? Absolutely no idea. But we navigated through that. Like, she was always there, with creative ideas, making social stories, working. Just it was just fantastic. I don't want to let her go either. And even though Parker isn't going there, I should say he's not going there anymore, but we still are. We still are on the payroll, or we're paying them or whatever. We're doing parent training once a month, because we have the approvals, and then come summer break, Parker loves ABA with a passion. He loves that place. He loves the people. And so summertime, just to keep him in kind of his routine, um we, depending on how things change at school this year. We may or may not have him go back to ABA during the summertime. And it's a lot easier just to keep insurance approval than to say, okay, he's done, and then try to get it approved again later. Because they'll be like, well, why didn't he need it during the school year? It's just this way, there's just no questions. And he still has all the approval for all that if we do go back in during the summertime. But yeah, it's just been a great experience with the BCBA.
All right, we're just wrapping up. I wanted to leave a couple minutes if there was anything any of the trainees wanted to follow up on or comment, or something you wanted clarification on.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlotte.
Hi, so I think my question was the second to last one, and I wanted to clarify my point. How can adults with disabilities like myself, so I'm someone who is late diagnosed autistic, better work to advocate for children and to work with parents? Because a lot of things, I don't have experience with ABA or navigating special education, but I do want to be a resources to parents and to young people as they transition from K through 12 and into adulthood.
For me, I think that those conversations are honestly just having conversations because you don't know what to really expect. Like I'll be honest, I've went to like social media and looked for Facebook groups of, how do I find a post-secondary place for my son, or what is the transition like, or who can I have my son go to for advice? Like maybe just making yourself available to have those conversations and being open to it, I think is super helpful because a lot of families, like, I mean, mine definitely has no idea where to start. Like, you think finding resources and help for children is difficult. As you age out of those services, it becomes even more. So I really appreciate that you're open about for doing those things. And I think just having those conversations would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've learned a lot from listening to individuals as adults um, who are willing to share their experience, and that has literally shaped how I view and the expectations I have of my daughter and the support that I give to her. So,
I used Michigan Rehab Services. That's where I went to find out what could we do. What what could we do? Because Jaden is 17 in the 11th grade, but he's not geared towards a diploma. So we right now he's just doing like life skills in school, but he wants to be a dancer, like a professional dancer. And so we're trying to figure out like now how can we transition him where he can make a professional dancer, or what do we need to do to get him where he needs to be. So we're working with Michigan Rehab Services, but that's where I went, and I would suggest that, or just like you're doing now, just joining some parent uh maybe like a Facebook group or something and offering support.
all right. I had one last question, and I thought this was a nice one to close with, and that's what are your dreams for your child and their future? Sam, you're unmuted. You want to go ahead and tackle that one?
Sure. Honestly, I think for my son, I just want him to feel fulfilled and happy in whatever way that is for him, whether that's being a dog walker, going to school for a degree to be a vet, or being a YouTuber, or staying at home with mom and dad until he can, and having a lot of plushies. Like, I truly just want him to feel happy and fulfilled in whatever way that is for him. And that's really all I wish for him.
Tanae or Jen?
Same. I mean, I just want him to be happy, whether that means he lives with us for the rest of his life, whether that means he moves out on his own, meets a nice girl and gets married and he has a job, whatever. I mean, being an older parent, I just hope I'm around to see it.
Tanae?
Same answer. We just want the best for all of them. Jaden and Tyler, both of them with having delays and wanting to do different things. Tyler did graduate from high school, but he wants to be a barber. So just trying to get them into the things that they want to do. As long as they're happy, we're happy. They don't have an expiration date on when they have to leave.
I would also add just understanding and acceptance from the world that isn't quite made for them. I think I would love to see a world become even more accommodating to those that are different. And I really hope that one day it is more of that than it is today.
Thank you. Well, thank you to our parents for joining us tonight. Very appreciated. There's some really nice comments in the chat there for you. Mike, I'm going to turn it back over to you if you have anything you want to wrap up with.
Sure, and thank you, Kristen, for leading the discussion tonight, and thank you all. Thank you to all of our family members that joined us. It was really good to hear from you all. Our trainees are, they come to us. They're all from different disciplines at different points in their careers, or and our parents or siblings or family members or self-advocates themselves. So I think a lot of what we discussed or what you have shared tonight can apply to our trainees, but it can also be applied in the future as they finish up their training in many cases and go off into the field to be, ABA therapists and clinicians and whatnot. So, your stories are very impactful and will be very helpful for helping make that change that you all want to see. That I hope that we all want to see. So thank you so much. I guess just the only updates I have for our trainees is we're moving into module 4, which is the interprofessional practice module. You all get to have some fun role playing at the next Zoom session. I know it's a very polarizing one. People either love it or hate it, but it's fun either way. So I'll be sending you all emails tomorrow morning with the information you will need to meet with your assigned groups. So be on the lookout for those. And I forgot to mention to our parents joining us tonight, we also have a group of trainees from Lima, Peru, who are joining us this year, and they're I think most of them are on tonight. Um, so they're learning about the systems here in Michigan, in the States, and then how they can possibly, take some of these practices and take this advice and implement it in Lima, which, they have very similar and very different needs there as well. So, yeah, forgot to mention that at the top, but we're done a minute early. I want you to make note of that. I'll let you all go. Have a great Tuesday night. Thank you again to our parents for joining us. It was wonderful. So have a good night. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you
Thank you,
all again.
everyone.
Thank you.